right. Hey, Flomies. Hope you guys are doing well. This is the very first Into the Flow podcast. We're very excited to start this. We had that really nice interview with Kevin Hargis last week. And then with the admins, we were just talking about how we really need to get this started. We have so many really interesting people in the Into the Flow group that it's just silly for us not to spend some time and get to know them, talk with them, see their perspective on certain things, find out what they're good at, what they can teach us about how they run their business and what they're successful in. And so we thought we'd start this time with our very own Jeremiah Hickey. He's the owner of On the Spot Window Cleaning. He's out of California. He's been doing it for a while. How long have you been in business, Jeremiah?
We started in 1998.
98. Okay, well that's 2 years more than me, so that's awesome. We're
Woohoo!
we're old school window cleaners, right?
You can tell by the loss of hair.
That's right. That's why I wear the hat. I keep that on there. So, how'd you get started? What made you think to start a window cleaning business?
Actually, what happened was my wife's father is a window cleaner, and when we first got married, I was in a job at a local winery. I had kind of just planned on making that my options. It was a decent job, but they switched owners, and the owner came to me and said, my father and my older brother were already working there. So the owner pulled me aside and said, there's too much of your family already here.
Oh,
So
wow.
you're not going to get any promotions or raises ever.
Wow.
This was in 1998, and we had just
Yeah.
started our marriage maybe 2 years into it, I think. And so, my father-in-law and my wife were just like, well, why not start a window cleaning business? So he kind of showed me some things, and away I ran with it.
So would he have experience cleaning windows?
Oh yeah, he was
Oh, okay.
late 70s. He started window cleaning in Florida,
Oh, wow.
and then he brought on over to the coast. And I think, we live in coastal California,
Okay.
up in San Luis Obispo County. But I think he moved there in the early 80s, like 1981,
Okay.
and started a business here. So he's been here for a long time, still doing it too.
Wow, that's really, really cool. So how did you like it when you started? Was it something that you knew you'd right away, this is what you were going to do, or did it take a little while to develop?
I didn't think it was something I was going to do right away. I had started, my family had a small, very, very small kind of side hustle janitorial business that I inherited. I had like 3 accounts, and window cleaning was just something that I thought, well, maybe if I pick up a couple of extra little things on the weekends. So I had already had my wheels turning in the window cleaning industry, but not as anything that was going to be life sustaining as far as finances go.
Sure.
And so when I knew I wasn't going to be working at that winery anymore, then I was like, well, I better make this window thing work, because I actually thought I would grow the janitorial with the windows, but quickly the windows took over and I dropped the janitorial side of it.
Oh, very cool. So when did you know that you kind of were set as a business? When you first start, when you're always wondering, well, hey, I'm around now, but will I be here next year? When did you kind of feel like, okay, you know what, I'm kind of established. I've got steady accounts. I feel like no matter what happens, my cleaning business is gonna last.
Well, I remember the first year, in 1998, I said I was going to take 2 weeks off of work, because I still have my job. I didn't quit right away. I had 2 weeks. I took 2 weeks off of work, and I said, I'm going to go try to start this business. And in that 2 weeks, I had earned as much as I had earned in a normal month's worth of pay.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I was like, okay, this is something I could do. But I knew it was also September, and we're going to go into our winter season, which my father-in-law, having insights, was like, it's slower in the winter and everything else. So that first winter, I kept my job part-time at the winery. And the next season, we had enough revenue that I knew I wouldn't need any part-time work in the winter. And that's when I knew the window cleaning was going to be it. So when I realized I could survive my first winter without another job, I thought, okay, I can keep doing this.
Very cool. Very cool. So how have you adapted now with all this, change in the economy with COVID-19? What's your strategy? Are you one of those person that's, well, I'm going to go get every job I can get, or are you kind of minimizing everything and just trying to just have as little payroll as possible just to get through it?
Yeah, that's interesting. First, I want to say that I don't want anybody to follow my example.
Yeah, good disclaimer. Good.
Figure it out yourself. But my experience of what we're doing as a company, um, we are following the local guidelines. Our county doesn't have as many cases as some other California counties. Our county has had other branches of work open up.
Hmm.
That being said, we had laid off our guys for 6 weeks, 7 weeks. We just hired them back. Just
Oh,
hired
good.
them.
Wow.
So I've got me and three other guys ready to work now, which is awesome. But we've adapted all of the precautions.
Hmm.
And to tell you the truth, a lot of our customers are calling in or emailing, what have you, and they're looking for exterior only, which is right now to me is golden.
Yeah.
If people want exterior only, I'm all for that
Yeah.
because I would rather minimize any exposures at all. Otherwise, I have a conversation with them about
Yes.
social distancing, even within the house. Having them off at one side of the house or outside while we go back and forth. So,
Hmm.
like I said, we're playing it day by day. We haven't adapted a hard, fast strategy that has to
Hmm.
be what we're doing. But we got our mask. We saw my wife saw your mask
Yeah.
on Instagram or what have you, and she called our local guy that does our t-shirts and stuff and said, "Hey, can you do this for us?" So he
Nice.
kind of created it. She inspired him to kind of create this own side hustle for him that he's like, people really like having their
Yeah.
logo on their
They
mask.
do. I tell you what, I just see it just yesterday, as a matter of fact, I struck up a conversation with a customer asking about it, and then we just got into a conversation about just branding, and just making sure our business is known because they're business owners as well. And it's a neat conversation point. I just think it gives you a little bit of a touch of professionalism that you've made specific masks for your business. That's it's kind of a message of, hey, we take this seriously, that we've made permanent masks that all our guys are going to wear. It's just an extra part of the uniform now. And I imagine, depending on how the search for a vaccine or other alternate treatment goes, we're probably going to be wearing masks for a while. So I figured it was a good investment. And like I said, just a statement that, hey, we're taking this seriously, we're taking your safety seriously, and we want to look professional as we do it. So that was a friend of ours who she had posted that she was making them, and I asked her, hey, could you put our logo on there? And she's like, I don't know. And she tried it, and now she's making them for other businesses too, like that. So it's pretty neat to look out. Yeah.
That is an awesome idea. It was an awesome idea, and yeah, we we grabbed on to that,
Good.
and
Good.
yeah, I say it's so cool that we just keep it even after everything's over. Just good
Yes. Yes.
sun protection. You don't inhale the allergens and everything else. But anyway, I don't know. Who knows where this all is.
Well,
Again,
good.
don't follow my lead. It's just what's happening. But
No, no, that's good. Yeah, we're doing the same thing as well. We've decided that its majority is going to be exterior only. I don't think we're taking any new customers, with the exception of maybe like realtor move outs where no one is in the house. All the furniture's out. We'll go into the house. With our longtime trusted customers, we are doing some interiors, but like you said, there's a checklist that we got to go down and make sure that they're in agreement with the social distancing. Does anyone have a cough? That you promise that if you start feeling unwell, whether you have a fever or not, you're going to notify us that morning. Just all these steps just to ensure the safety of our crew. And pretty much I'm the only one who's going inside right now. I do have another tech who has done it a couple times, but it was commercial. So we're, like you said, we're just kind of feeling around right now and trying to develop our best practices to make sure that both my crew and the customers feel safe. So that's good.
yeah,
Now, speaking of safety, one of the things I want to talk to you about, Jeremiah, is that we got to know each other at the last IWCA convention, and you were on a panel, a residential panel that was supposed to talk about all of this other subjects with cleaning windows, and you mentioned that you are a no ladder company, and that took over the whole that took over the whole seminar. Nobody else wanted to talk about anything else about how on earth do you run a window cleaning company with no ladders. So
yeah.
I really appreciated your expressions, because you kind of won me over on a lot of steps that I was like, oh, no, 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 this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But could you explain a little bit how you came across that philosophy, and what are some things that you do to ensure that you can still get the job done, but without having to use ladders?
Okay, yeah. So first off, yeah, I remember when I said it. I think I said something like, "We have a focus on no ladders." So we are mostly no ladders. There are a few exceptions, and when I say no ladders, I'm talking anything over 6 feet. So we do have small step ladders and things like that. Even then, though, with the guys, because I don't know how it is for others with their workers' comp and everything else, but workers' comp is dramatically different if you go over 6 feet in California.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Under 6 feet, we're doing okay as far as the workers' comp goes. I make sure we have a spotter at the ladder. So even at 6 feet, if somebody's going to be steadying that ladder. So we're not entirely a 100% no ladder company. That being said, I first really got interested in adapting more pole work to my residential, just because I was using it so much in my commercial work. I was using poles all the time. I had the vice versa, or backflip, both of them, the same ungulatory, whatever. And I had that, and I had the 0 degree, which allowed me to go over ledges at very, very unusual angles, things like that. So I was adapting a lot of things for my commercial work, which is a good testing ground. The standards for perfection are a lot less in most commercial applications compared to residential. So at least for our area, it is. So I was just adapting the different things, and I just realized I was really good with traditional pole work as far as speed, efficiency, and when I got the opportunity to go inside and take a look, I was like, these windows look just as good anyway. So I just started adopting it to the interiors. Along with that, I can't tell you a window cleaner that I know personally that hasn't had at least a ladder scare, if not a ladder fall. And I'm one of them. So at one time, I had a ladder start to slide out underneath me on a tile floor, and it got stopped by another piece of furniture, which was like, whew, I slid about a foot before it stopped. And I was like, wow, I was 15 feet up, what have you. And then another time, and I had already been very skilled with poles, and I was just in this awkward window that I couldn't reach with the pole because the tree was in the way. I set my ladder up in a foolish way. It gave. I went down. I cracked my head pretty bad. Concussion, everything else. At which point I was like, this is it. I knew I had used water-fed poles. I hadn't adopted them heavily. I didn't even have the deionized systems at the time. I was like, I could have done this window deionized, not even an issue behind the tree, but because of where it was, I didn't have the equipment. I went up on the ladder. I got hurt. Everything was okay, just concussion and stitches and what have you. But it was a bad fall. So I gave it up. I gave up all that and said, the standard is no ladders. Anything at height, forget it. Now with that, we did have to drop anything new construction that required nose to the glass up high, because unless they got scaffold set up or a lift or something like that, there was just no way that we could really do most new constructions in that capacity, which is fine. I don't really like new construction anyway. So there are, caveats to what you can and can't do with the ladder. I know. You can't do everything. So I just kind of adopted that. But what I realized more than anything was it takes you training yourself and your crew to do pole work. It takes confidence, and then it takes a good conversation with the customer if you're in a position where you just know the results aren't going to be what it could be with a ladder, and letting them know. I had one customer, she had a real high roof that I used to always climb up onto, and just a tier of windows up on top. And I just said, I can't do that anymore. I feel totally fine. If you need to find somebody else, but we're just not going to do that as a company anymore. And she's like, I don't even care about those windows. And I was like, and she, still to this day, this was 10 years ago that we really went heavy with the no ladders, and she's, that's not an issue. So a conversation needs to be had in certain situations, and then even like that with some roofs, people, they don't really think about what they're asking you to do. A lot of times it's the Spanish tile roofs and things like that. And then when you tell them that you won't walk on the roof, as opposed to assuming that you're going to figure out a way to do it, and you mentioned the fact that the tiles can break if they're stepped on wrong or if they're weak, almost all the time they don't want you to do it anyway.
Yeah.
I rarely have a customer that says, I really wish you'd walk on my,
Yeah. Yeah.
$50,000 roof and crack some tiles for me.
But it's
Uh,
it's funny because I think as the mindset of a window cleaner, we're so much like, hey, we can figure this out. I've got this many years of experience. I can do, I've stepped on these before and blah blah blah. And there was one job I had where it was a pretty good sized picture window, and like you said, it was Spanish tile underneath it, and I walked it I probably for about 3 or 4 years I walked it, and then I was up there one time and I just kind of looked back and I looked at the tile themselves and I thought, man, one of these cracks, I'm gone. I'm going to be on the floor. And after that, same thing, I had a conversation with my customer and said, hey, you know what? I'm not comfortable walking on here. Do you mind if I just water fed it? She was fine. I did it. I always avoided it because I was worried the quality wasn't going to be good. It was fine. It was fine, and I was safer. It's faster. And I charged exactly the same. And I just thought, man, why am I making it so hard? With this whole striving for perfection that we think, that we demand of ourselves, we forget the customer doesn't always appreciate that fine of a detail on it. And like I said, the quality was great. I was perfectly fine with it as a cleaner. Well, it wasn't a matter of, well, she'll be fine with it. No, I was fine with it. So I do appreciate that you were willing to take that step all the way through, because I still use ladders in my business, and I'm still fighting it, and I'm still trying to get past my OCD, I guess, and convince myself that I can do it. And I think also it's just the experience of you using waterfed. I've been using waterfed for about 3 years now, and I'm pretty good, and I feel pretty confident in a lot of things. But then once in a while, I'll just have streaks, or I'll have lines, or I spray up in the sill, the upper frame, and it drip, and then I put everything away, and then I come back out and redo it, and those stuff really makes me question using it. But I think with just experience, I need a little more. So you mentioned you use like backflip, vice versa. You'd use the Unger Zero.
yeah.
Had you used that before with the commercial? Like, is that one of the first ones, or did you get it specifically to help you get the window so you didn't have to get up on ladders?
No, I got that because I got it for commercial. And I got it just because I had bought the training video that Unger had at the time. That I was like, they had this little bit, the training course, which was really just an advertising course for all the different products. And I saw them using it, and they put it on a pole, and they had done one of the half circles, the half moon above. And I was like, oh, I hate doing those things with a fixed straight down 18-inch
Yeah.
squeegee. That's the only thing I really knew was that squeegee was the fixed 18 and 22. That's all I had. And then smaller, I had 10s and whatnot. So it was like you got to wiggle it back and forth, and it was super awkward. I had never seen a pivoted head on any squeegees at all at that point. I didn't have a lot of stuff going on as far as exposure. I saw that video. I saw the 0 degree. I'm like, I want to try that thing out. It was not an easy thing for me to just kind of I took a full day or two of being frustrated with it before I was like, okay, I'm starting to figure out what this is doing. And then what I realized, and why I kind of really, really like especially the old school Unger 0 degree, the old school one is in my opinion, a better engineered for pole work, but the new one works well. It's because I wish I had one, but unlike other swiveling squeegees, when you swivel it, it goes to like almost a 90-degree close.
Mm.
And so when you have an 18-inch blade and an angle on it like this, if you imagine a ledge is here, you can get really deep on a ledge and still clear it without having to draw it down with a ledger or something like that. And it's so versatile once you realize that you can go do all sorts. You don't have to switch out the squeegee for this or that or that. It's the squeegee that kind of gets you everywhere you need to go. I really like the Mormon swivel right now. I like the way it functions, except it closes out like right here. It doesn't have that full 90-degree close. So once you're close to the glass, you're limited. A couple other ones, for some reason, and I haven't really studied them, they just don't have the control that I like with the 0 degree. So I adapted that to the residential, and I think that's the big segue is that once you kind of get your tools in hand, you're figuring them out, you got to apply them to the inside of a house in a vaulted ceiling situation or this or that where you're used to going up and using your ladder. And I think that's a bigger transition than anything for guys that are used to using ladders. It was for me. Um,
Well, for most of us who are polling inside, our biggest worry is the drip, right? The drip down the side, messing up a wall, or dripping on the floor, and the customer sees it and gets upset. What do you do? Do you have issues with drips on the side, or do you have, if you do have it, do you have methods of kind of cleaning it up where you're not leaving marks?
yeah, so if it's a flat paint situation and you're inside a house and you've noticed, anytime you notice that you're in a smoky house or something, like
Mm-hmm.
we don't have a lot of cigarette smokers out here, but occasionally you get a fireplace,
Mm-hmm.
and you can just start to tell that they use their fireplace because it's coming black off the window as you
Yeah.
do them. So
Yeah.
I'm always hyper particular about that. Um, so if you got flat paint situations and your soap is running dirty, what have you, what I like to do is first I like to put another strip mop on a pole where the water is going to catch, especially if you're
Okay.
going side to side. It's easy to kind of pinpoint it down onto the corner where it's all going to go to. That's easy enough to do. The other thing is if you have like a bucket of just deionized water, just the water, and a little bit comes over the edge and starts to drip, you can hit that with a strip mop with just the purified water, and it wipes right off before it has
Oh,
time to
nice.
stain into the paint. It's really, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've never had an issue with it. It's only the really flat paints that ever show it. I did have to go in once when I was first doing it. I did a skylight and it had dripped, and I didn't know it was going to leave marks, and I just left it there. And they called me back.
Yeah.
They called me back, and I went in there and I used just kind of a little heavier duty paint wash, for kind of like not TSP, not as harsh as TSP, but something a little bit stronger than just this soap. And I just washed the whole width of the area where it had the drips, and it came out totally fine.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you do want to take those precautions. But I've had a lot of people ask me that, and I'm just curious as to how many people feel they never drip on a wall anyway. I mean, you're up next to a
Well,
window.
I'll tell you what. I dripped. I was pulling inside. I was pulling sideways off of a stair, it was like a balcony walkway, and
Uh-huh.
then there was windows here. So I thought, oh, I'm just gonna pull it sideways. I'm gonna pull it towards me. And I dripped, and the homeowner was really cool about it. I didn't have that idea of the deionized water. I could not get that off.
Oh, really?
They never called me back, but she was really nice about it. Because it was back when I was first starting. So ever since then, we're talking, I've been in business 20 years. I am super paranoid about dripping. And if there's one thing I'm getting on my guys about is dripping. And I'm like, no, you do not leave a window with drips. I'd say probably, gosh, maybe 1 out of 99 times I'll drip on a wall, but then I wipe it up right away. I guess that's the fear, is when it's
That
so high that it's going to sit there too long before I can pull it down and get whatever I need to do to go up there and wipe it, but I mean, again, if it's unfounded, it's unfounded. It's just not having any experience in doing that. That's my biggest fear. That's why I've never pulled on the inside like that again after that.
well, and I get it too, and it's the other thing you can do, just as an idea, and I do it, is whenever I have multiple things that I need to do quickly, is I have multiple poles up in position.
Mm,
So I don't
mhm.
have to pull it down to switch out this or that. So if I know I
Gotcha.
got to do a touch up real fast, I'll have even just a damp towel with deionized water, a nice microfiber that's not going to leave anything.
Hmm.
But if you put because I'm assuming if you're going to catch drips on a wall, you're either catching it with your strip mop or you're putting
Yes.
towel down or
Yes.
something, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So, the same principle applies with the strip mop. It's pretty easy with a little angle adapter or whatever to get a strip mop to rest right on the bottom frame. A
Yeah.
dry one.
No, I've got the backflip as well. I could just pull that one has a little ledge on it for the washer, for the strip washer, and that would go right over it for sure. Yeah, I just never thought about that. So that's pretty cool.
So it's just, different. It takes a different mindset. And it takes a real earnestness to do what you do without pulling out the ladder. Now I hate the idea of the ladder. It's like I went from, oh, I went for, I think every window cleaner does it. Some, I mean, not everybody. Some hate heights, and so when I tell them you can do it without a ladder, they're like, "That's great." You know, one of my guys, he's never been on a ladder over a little step ladder, and he hates heights. And he's the inside guy, and he's a pole guy, and you know, he's never been up on one, and doesn't ever want to be up on one, and that's fine for both of us.
I had a guy who he wasn't afraid to get on ladders, but he did prefer to pole, which I was fine with. And he worked for me for a little while. He actually had his own business, but he just needed some extra work, so he worked with me. And he's a very experienced window cleaner. But I just went back on a job that he had done last year that I had sent him and another guy there. And those transoms were terrible. I mean, he pulled them, and there were lines and streaks, and I talked to the homeowner. I said, I am so sorry. I wish you would have called me. I would have come and take care of it. And she says, oh no, he was such a nice young man. I didn't want to get him in trouble. And, you know, but it bothered them for a whole year. I mean, it was just terrible, terrible. But again, it wasn't a 0 degree. And I don't know. I think he just kind of had the tendency of just wanting to get jobs over with, you know. And I think sometimes people will go through the motion. As long as they go through the motion, whether it's actually clean or not, well, they're done, you know. And I think he had that mentality. But because I mean, obviously, if he would have just put some, you know, DI water on even a flat microfiber pad, which is what we have, he would have made it look a ton better, you know. But he just didn't even do that. He just left it the way it was. But that's my paranoia, you know. That's every time I think, man, I really got to do this whole no ladder thing, like Jeremiah. I start thinking about experiences like that. I'm like, oh, I couldn't leave a house, but I know I wouldn't, you know. I'd see it, and it would just bother me, and I'd figure out a way to make it better, you know, or at least have a conversation with the customer.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things to consider. There's a lot of different ways to do it. There's different techniques and everything else. I just try to think like, well, I think I said it in the seminar I was in. I'm like, if you can do it with your finger to touch things up, you can do it with a pole. It's got the same pressure points. You just got to figure out how to get it there and be able to see what you're doing. Or if you know you're going to leave a mark in a certain place because of the way the angle or the edge is, automatically buff out that mark whether you see it or not, so that if you're at a different spot in the house and you're looking for the landing or something else, you know, then you'll be able to recognize where that is. But yeah, you know, it's not as easy to get the quality that you do when your nose is to the glass. I would never ever say that it's the same. But for me, it is between the efficiency, well, I should say between the safety and the efficiency, and the fact that with the right training and right tools, you can really do a great job. It's a no-brainer for us.
Yeah. No, you really you won me over in that seminar. You definitely, let's put it this way. Logically, I know that's the right way I should go. Now it's going to probably take me another year to kind of work my OCD part of my personality into accepting it, and then actually trying. I don't have a lot of experience with the 0 degree. I am a very good poler. I love the backflip. I can pretty much do just about anything with the backflip. That's my weapon of choice, so to speak, and I love it. But if I could practice on that 0 degree and really perfect it, I just think I'd be unstoppable with, and I'd be a lot more open to that type of cleaning for sure. So I just got to get out there, you know. With this COVID thing, I think I'm gonna have a little more time, and I just may take a day where, like you said, just go and find some windows that are a little bit high and just practice and just get it down until I am comfortable with it. Because I'm all about control. If I have a squeegee and I don't feel like I have the control I like, whether it's in the rubber or it's the angle or whatever, I just don't like it. You know, I run away from it. I got to know that I have full control over whatever I'm doing. Did it stop on me?
What I like too about the different handles, a little bit, just your face, but the voice came through.
Yeah, internet's in and out.
What I like too is that you can change out your channels on most squeegee handles. So with the 0 degree or any whatever your weapon of choice is, as far as that's concerned, if you like the Ettore channel and you want to put it on to you know, an Unger handle, and they're interchangeable, so you get what's comfortable with. Also, a good recommendation for people that are trying out the different swiveling things is go with the smaller sizes until you get the right feel for it.
Yes.
You know, swinging an 18-inch at a weird angle, you lose your control until you really know what it is. But when you've got a 12-inch on there, you can kind of whip that thing around, and it's like, yeah, it's not cleaning as much glass at a time, but you can feel when it touches an edge instead of going up and over it. And yeah, just play with it until you fly in the comfort zone.
Good advice. Yeah. All right, cool. That was awesome. But you know what I really brought you here to talk about is if those of you guys who don't know Jeremiah, he at one time held the or held the title of world's fastest window cleaner. And so we got a chance to talk when we went out to dinner at the IWCA convention, and you just told some wonderful stories. So first, why don't you talk about how you even got into speed cleaning, what it was like to win at the IWCA, and then you actually went to Europe and competed over there with the big time window cleaning speed champions over there, and you won. So could you please just kind of tell us the story, man? It's just such a fascinating turn of events.
It's a 15-year fluke is all it is. No, it was a lot of fun. I got into it because I had heard there was a speed competition. That was my very first IWCA that I went to was in Anaheim, which is about 4 hours away from where I live. And I had heard there was the speed competition down there from my father-in-law who had read about it in the magazines in the past. At the time, I had developed a two-handed technique where I was just to catch the water as I was going. And so I knew you were supposed to use two hands. I didn't know anything else about the competition. So I just kind of taught myself as I was catching my water that I could scrub and squeegee at the same time. So I just kind of implemented that on my own. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go down there. And my wife was like, just enter the speed competition. See, do it. Just go and do it. It'll be fun. So me and my father-in-law went down, and I entered the speed competition. And Jim Willingham was there. And so the contest currently for the IWCA is named the Jim Willingham Speed Competition. It's in memorial of him. He had passed away, I think, in 2008 or 2009. Mm-hmm. But he was a big figure at the time in it. He kind of spearheaded a lot of that energy into that competition. At the time, this was in 2000. The international contingent was strong, very strong. The French were dominating. There was two guys from France, Richard and Frank, and they just dominated. And so I was there, wide-eyed, didn't know what was going on. There was probably 40 or 50 or more competitors in the room, and it was held over 2 nights. It was a big draw. And I kind of, after doing the practice runs and what have you, I noticed Jim was very outgoing, very gregarious. So I struck up a conversation with him, and he just told me to watch the French guys, watch what they're doing. So I awkwardly incorporated the techniques I was seeing. I realized that you had to have a 12-inch squeegee, or they tell you got to have a 12-inch squeegee, 14-inch strip mop. So it's these tools that I'm not familiar with, all the parameters there. I entered the competition. I placed 9th overall, and I was just like ecstatic. I couldn't believe they had a semifinal and a final. So it wasn't that you got both scores, whatever your best score was, you had to qualify to be in the final. So I qualified to be in the final. I got 9th overall. I was like, this is awesome. So then I got some local press out of it. I was cleaning at the time one of the local papers. I just went in there and said, hey, I did this thing. Got some press out of it. They ran a little story on me, what it was about. And I thought this is a great marketing tool to be involved in. So that's what started me in the speed competition. And I got very, very close to the French guys quickly. So in 2003 in Reno, they were there. They placed 1st and 2nd, and I placed 3rd. And it was 11.2 seconds, 11.4 seconds, and 11.6 seconds.
Wow, you're right there.
On the final. So I had this taste for I wanted, how egos get. It's not very humble, but you taste that. You could if the conditions were just right. So I entered several of them. My best run ever was a 10.4, which was awesome for me. The world record's 9.14 though. So that guy Terry Burrows, he's a nut. He's awesome. Man. But anyway, so over the years, I had done several of them. I never took home 1st overall. I had second place and third place, but it had been a while. So that put us, then I went on after the Great Recession. I didn't go to the conventions or any of the speed competitions for a while. And then out of the blue, my wife and I decided it was a good time to start using it for marketing again. And so in 2019, last year, it was in San Diego. And we went down there. I happened to win it. I won it. I won the medley competition. On the drive home, that was the IWCA speed competition. On the drive home, my wife goes, well, I wonder where the next Guinness World Record situation is being held. So she looked it up when I was off working home already, and she's texted me, the next Guinness competition is next month in the UK. And
so she's just sending you all over the place, huh? She's like, you go over there and make us some money.
You know, the idea that the person out cleaning the windows is running the business is not true. I don't care how much labor I get done. The best ideas have always come from her. But and so yeah, so we went to Europe, and did I answer most of that first part? That was a long-winded. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. It's good stuff. Okay, so yeah, so tell me a little bit about going over to Europe now. Okay, so you guys are looking at this as kind of like a vacation thing, right? You're not thinking, oh, I'm going to go over there, I'm going to conquer, I'm going to beat all these guys.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It was a no-brainer as far as using the business to get to go to England for the first time in my life, but it was as legitimate as you could get it for a business thing, because that's what we were going for. And so yeah, there's a lot of different parts to that story. But first, so when you entered it's the cleaning expo over there, the cleaning show in England and in London. And so when you entered it, they said, where are you from? And I just said, California, United States. So they had a PR guy running the thing for them just to get, local coverage and everything else, to try to get people to be a part and exposure to this. This is huge. I don't know, anybody that's been to the IWCA is a good size convention. Anybody's been to the ISSA, the cleaning convention, and you see how big it is comparatively. This is more like the ISSA. It's just
Gotcha.
this huge warehouse full of all of these vendors and everything else. I didn't know that, but so this is a big deal over there as far as the kind of event it is. So they had the PR guy, and he emails me and says, I see you're from the United States. Would you be willing to be a part of our press releases so that we can kind of drum up some media on this? And me, of course, being a media hound, I kind of had used this for, over a decade, well over a decade, almost 2 decades, using it in the media for promoting our own business. I was like, yeah, absolutely, no big deal. So he didn't know my history in the event. He just knew I was from the States. And so that was exciting enough to be of interest for them. And so when he called me up, he's like, I started telling him my story, and he's like, wait, you're an actual contender. I was like, well, I don't know, but I have done well in the past. And he's like, well, that's even better. So they got me over there, and they said, we can't guarantee anything because it's a PR. So we will be pumping the press up until the event to get the press to cover this. And so 2 days before, or 3 days before, right before we get on the plane, we get the email and says that this morning, which is it's like the Today Show for the BBC, not the BBC, but for England over there. It's the big news morning show. Yeah. That's not just dry news. It's like their storytelling news show. We're going to be on that. It's like, okay, cool. And it's going to be right before. Go ahead.
Did you start freaking out like when you heard that, or were you like, oh, I can handle this, it's not a big deal?
I'm terrible because I love this kind of stuff. I was like, woo, I'm going to be on the big time news. Yeah, I don't know. Not everybody is built like that, inside. I am. I love that kind of stuff. So when they said that, you're going to be on the news, and are you willing to do that? I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. So we fly in on Monday. On Tuesday, we just hang out. Tuesday was practice day for the competition, but me and my wife ditched the practice and sight saw and had fun, and was like, yeah, we're in London now.
Yeah.
And then the next morning was the morning show. This morning, and it's I mean it's went in for makeup and everything else. I was like, oh, this is, and the PR guy is like, you don't understand who you're going to meet. These people are so famous over here. They are so famous, and it's just such a privilege to be in the same room with these. I'm like, I don't know who they are. I'm an American. I don't watch these shows. You know, I'm just ignorant. Don't know any of that stuff. But so we went over there, and yeah, so they set it all up, and it was a lot of fun, all the setup and what have you. So Terry Burrows, who is the world record holder, he was over there in the competition, and they kind of pitted it as, okay, here's the world record holder, and here's the American that just won the IWCA speed competition. So it was kind of like we were the most vested in. Yeah, you know, the other guy had just. I feel a little bit bad. I do feel bad. He was from Sweden, who had just won the Swedish competition, and he actually ended up being second in the competition overall. But so there were people in regional competitions that had done really well. But because I was from the States, and that's kind of like a big playing card as far as the music is concerned, versus the world record guy Terry Burrows. So we had our little shtick up there, and they had taped off these big plate glass windows to the regulation size 245-inch with just tape, and we just had to follow the tape and race each other, and we just put on a show for them. They did a little interview. I brought my belt over.
There you go. I want to see it.
Bring
the IWC. Look at that.
Is that that one there? And that was like, they put that out in the news, like, look at that belt, and the newscaster's like, oh, we want that belt, and it was just a lot of fun. But so it's second day in, so I'm starting to feel jet lag. The night before, I started getting a cold.
Oh no!
My wife pumps me up with Dayquil in the morning, and she's like, okay, So during the show, I didn't really notice it too bad. I had the Dayquil, and but right after the show, they're like, we got to get to the competition because they're going to start it. And they want to start it right now. And it was like an hour across town.
Wow. So
we're in the car, the whole crew of us, and I'm starting to fade as far as being ill and whatnot. And if we get there, I hadn't eaten. I hadn't had anything but coffee in the morning, and we're showing up and just dragging in. And so we get to the thing, they're like, okay, we're going to start the competition. And Terry was there the day before doing the practice run, and he was really, really generous to me. And he was really nice. And he's like, he grabbed a squeegee. Nobody was supposed to be practicing. He grabs a squeegee and step up, and he gives it to me. And he goes, get up on that glass. You got to feel it. It's different. So that
was really generous of him.
Yeah, it was really generous. So I went up, and anybody that's seen the competition, it's 3 45-inch square panes of glass in a row. So I went up to the first square of glass there with the strip mop and the squeegee, and I just kind of floated it on the glass, not in any competition style. And then I just followed the frames around to kind of feel, and the frames are different than the ones in the States. They got beveled edges and whatnot. And so I was like, oh man, this is gonna be tough. So I took one quick run on the glass, and I sat down, and they said the competition's going to start. I didn't even run through the whole thing. And I had never, in Europe, you have to clean all 3 pieces and run back, wiping the ledge, which in the States, you don't have to do that. You can wipe the ledge with your finger as you go. So I had never done a running pass or anything. And so about 3 or 4 contestants in, it was my turn. That's all the practice I had for it. And I went up there, and I was probably because I was sick that I did as good as I did, because my brain wasn't working.
It was just all instinct, huh?
Yeah, it was just like, okay, show up. And it's anybody that likes the media, as far as that, it was awesome. There were like 20 cameras there. If you watch the video on YouTube, I've got it on my channel, and it's on a couple other things, but if you watch the video on YouTube, there are cameras everywhere, behind the glass, at the end of the glass, behind you. And when I started to go, it was just click, 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 click the whole time. I'm like, this is window cleaning. They take it seriously in the
Yeah,
UK.
man.
Oh, so I took my run and I didn't feel great about it. I think I ran the whole thing in about 11 seconds, but I knew I left mistakes.
Mhm.
And I figured with Terry Burrows there, Terry is tight, and then the Swedish guy had spent the whole day before practicing, and Terry's like, he is serious about winning this, and so they started doing the announcements, and I didn't get third, and I thought, well, that's it, I'm out, I'm not even in the top three. They mentioned third, then they mentioned second, and my wife goes, I don't think you're fourth because I think you were better than third. I remember the guy. I was like, nah. And they took Terry up there and just to talk and to say thank you, so I didn't even announce it. And then they're like, and the winner, and it was me. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
So yeah, it was just chaotic as far as the energy and the timing and the travel and everything else. Everything just kind of lined up together, and it happened. And it
That's
was
awesome.
the first ever World Cup. Got my name etched into the actual World Cup. They sent me this crystal. I don't know if you can see it, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah, I can
etched
see
in.
it. Uh-huh.
2019 World Cup winner with my name on it and everything
Man.
else. And so beyond that, though, so that was super fun. But I got to tell you, when it came back around to the IWCA this last year, um, Paul Collum, the president,
Mhm.
wasn't president then, but
Right.
president this year. He asked me. He didn't really tell me which way to go, but he just asked if I would be willing to be a judge for the competition this year. And then my wife, again with the great ideas, was like, you should really think about being more of a mentor for the competition
Mhm.
and more of a spokesman to get more people involved. And so it evolved for me like this huge leap to actually like kind of get more people involved. And that's where you come in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me tell you, as far as a spokesman is concerned, you did an excellent job motivating me because I was there at that San Diego when you won. Now I didn't know you then, and I thought it was awesome. I videotaped it. I posted it on my Facebook and Instagram, and I just thought it was really cool. But there was no chance of me getting up there. Forget it. And then we're here at the IWCA, and I was like, oh, I'll follow. I was kind of come in and out of it and check it out, but I'm not getting up there. And just your enthusiasm for the event and how excited you were about it, and you just kept saying, no, you guys don't understand. You guys can do this. You guys can do this. And there's going to be a lot of people in there who are watching who are afraid to do it, but if you just get up there and do it, you're gonna make a difference. And you had me psyched up. So I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm gonna win this thing. Of course I didn't, but it was such a neat experience. One, to have people rooting for you, because all the ITF flomies were there. We were all cheering each other on, and you get up there, and like you said, it's just something about competition. And when everybody is watching you, you just kind of lock in, and you just try your best. And my first run, I was my best, and I felt really good about that. The second run I did, I wasn't so happy, but I think because I was trying to quote unquote, fix things that I messed up on the first. If I would have just kind of kept the same energy in the first one, I probably would have done better on the second. But instead, I had made some mistakes that I knew, and I was trying to catch those. And in return, I made more mistakes. But it was such a fun experience. And then to have Jeff Likes win, one of the Flomies, win it, and to watch his run, it was just, oh man, the excitement. It was like we were watching a sporting event. I was like at
It
NBA
was right.
finals. And everyone was cheering, and then we were all jumping up and down. I was right next to Megan, his wife, and she was all into it. So I mean, it was just the electricity of the competition was just so fun. So to be a part of it, I was just so glad that you talked me into it, because I know I wouldn't have done it, and I wouldn't have had this. Now next year I'm going to be indefinitely, and I'm going to make sure I practice a couple months before. I still haven't built my 3 panes of 45s yet, but I'm going to eventually, so I can have a little practice field and get good at it.
Well, do you mind if I give all of the Flomies here two quick tips that would have
Yeah.
saved a lot of people? The first one is that because I was a judge, and we kind of changed the way we were judging. In the past, there were a lot of eliminations. If you
Right.
didn't,
I remember you saying that.
yeah, if you didn't wet the entire piece of glass with a strip mop, you were eliminated. Period. And I think that kind of discouraged a lot of people from even entering because there were a lot of eliminations. So you kind of
Mhm.
put all the stress on yourself, and you don't even know how you did because your score doesn't even go up, and you're just, So we eliminated that unless somebody actually has a Guinness record run, then the judges are required to say whether or not the glass was all the way wet. So we kind of just buff that out to let everybody have a little bit more of a fun time with it.
Mhm.
But we penalize the not wetting of the glass severely, more so than leaving water on the glass. So that was hanging up a lot of people. They kind of do a couple of half turns with their strip mop, and it would really penalize them. So if you're going to practice for it, practice getting the glass wet. The other
Got
thing
it.
that really bummed out a lot of people, and I don't know if it happened to you, but if you're going to use one of the squeegees up there, make sure the handle is fixed in place.
Oh yeah, no, it didn't happen to me, but
There
I did see a
were there were
couple it popped out. Yeah.
Yeah, if one of them, I forget what manufacturer had it, but it's got a little flip handle on the back, and it just kind of clamped down, and they weren't like clamped down really tight. So once they bumped the edge of the frame, the whole squeegee channel would shift out of the way.
Yeah. That
Personally,
sucks.
ever since they've had them in the competitions, I've always used the ErgoTech because it's got the teeth that lock in the channel. The
Hmm.
channel won't slip out. The
Yeah.
rubber might slip a little bit, but the channel won't because the teeth are locked in.
Well, I
So anytime
use
you can really know that.
yeah, I use the old school Ettore brass, and I like it screwed in.
That's
I don't like the clips or the that for the channel. Not I like the clips on the end, but I don't like the channel clips. And for that reason, because you hit something and boom, it pops out. I tolerate it on the backflip just because that by virtue of how you're going to use it, it's helpful to have the channel in and out easy. But as far as when I'm squeegeeing, I want that solid in there. I don't want it moving around.
Yeah. So if you're going to do the competition, look for that because a lot of people, and I would have assumed it too if you're comfortable with that squeegee in general. But when you go at speed, as soon as you bump that thing and it goes out of whack, now your whole rhythm's off, and that
Yes.
happened to a lot. And I
Yeah.
felt bad because as a judge, I wasn't up there to tell them
Yeah.
what they did wrong during the competition. I coached people beforehand, but I wasn't adjusting them during it as far as any technical support. I could
Sure.
tell them if they missed something, but I wasn't telling them what to change as far as equipment and that kind of stuff. I didn't think that was very fair as a judge to tell anybody that.
Yeah.
But now that I'm in the mentor phase again, grab a squeegee that you know is going to stay in its fixed position.
Yes. Yes.
um, and that'll save you a lot. And I think that'll tighten it up. I think that we had a lot that were there that were like yourself and Jeff,
Yeah.
who have this inherent speed and just really need to kind of fine tune the technique as far as for the competition. And you'll start to see
Yeah.
dramatic changes and shifts in the overall outcomes.
Well, I realized what I was doing wrong. I see the way I squeegee is I follow the whole frame, and when I watched Jeff's run, it was more of like an S shape kind of where he didn't. I was going all the way down to the bottom and then coming back up, and that's how I normally squeegee, and he was doing just like the zigzag back and forth on it, and I thought, oh man, if I would have done that, that would have saved me a couple seconds off of my time. But for sure,
Yeah.
I placed 8th. I was happy with that. Hey, man, that made my day for sure.
That was the biggest turnout I had seen in the competition since the mid 2000s. There was a good amount of people that entered that. So much so that we were running out of time, which hasn't
Yeah.
happened for a while.
Yeah, well, I think a
Um,
lot of that was thanks to you because you really talked it up to a lot of us. So there's a lot of people who were in it that would never have done it, especially of the Flomies, because you really kind of hit us real hard. You're like, "Come on, guys, you guys got to do it." So that's a tribute to you. So your mentoring has already had a good year. So next year, man, we may have to run it 2 days like the Europeans do.
yeah, right. And we'll see if we can get the. It's the booth time. That's the problem. The booth
Yes,
is expensive.
it is.
That's sponsorship money, not using the booth
Yes,
for other purposes. So
that's true.
either way, if they give us whatever time they give us, it's going to be what it is, and we'll just make the best event out of it that we can. But yeah, it'll be interesting. The more new people get involved because there will be those that take it and run with it.
Yeah.
And I do miss that old school. The old school, at least when I came, I'm kind of middle school. There was a decade before I showed up that was doing it. Jim Willingham was kind of that transition guy. But with Jim was super fast, not the tightest turner, but he was super. That guy flew, and he was a big guy. Oh man, he was big. But man, he would do like an 8-second run. It'd be sloppy as could be, but it'd be, blitzed. It was fast. But that kind of mid-range dynamic where they had that international contingent. There was Ivan from Sweden who had kind of dominated the early 2010s to the middle 2010s. I competed against him a couple times. I beat him once. He beat me a couple times. But then I didn't show up for a while, and I understand he won it several years in a row. He's a solid guy as far as competition goes. So if all of these different elements kind of come back together with all the new blood, it could be a really, really dynamic competition. And a lot of fun for anybody that just wants to just get in there and, just go for it.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like now I understand it more. I didn't understand it at all. I just showed up and just did what you told me. And now I think I understand. So I'm not saying that I'm fast enough to win yet, but I feel like now I can at least I feel like competent. I when I went up there, it was just on my 20 years of experience that I did as well as I did. And now I feel like I understand the technical part of it. So, with some work, we'll see how it goes. But again, thank you so much, Jeremiah. Your promotion of that competition, but also the IWCA in particular, is something that's been really outstanding. And your energy motivates people to look into those things, because the reason why we promote the IWCA and Into the Flow so much is because it is a nonprofit organization designed to help us. There is no ulterior motives, and I think people, especially window cleaners, are inherently suspicious of most things. We kind of question whether someone's trying to help us. Exactly. And so it's good for us to be able to see people like yourself who actually have benefited from the IWCA, and it's helped your company. I know I'm someone like that as well. I went the last year for the first time, and I probably saved myself about $20,000-$30,000 just in dumb decisions, for my business. I feel so much stronger this year, and it's education, right? It's all about education. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for all of your help with that. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. It was great stories, and I'm glad that the Flomies now will have a better opportunity to know your story and know what your background is. And anytime we get to have another get together, IWCA, you're gonna have to bring that belt, and we'll have Jeff bring his too, so you guys can pose together for pictures and autographs.
Definitely, and I hope you get Jeff on here, because
oh, we will. Yeah,
that was so awesome to see him win it last year. He was in it, in 2019. He entered, and I just remember seeing him, and he just mustered up the courage to do it last year, and to see him come back from where he was and win it was just like that was awesome. So way to go, Jeff.
Yeah, and I was standing right next to him when he went up there, so I got to see it all from the participant's perspective of, oh, here's a fellow cleaner going up there, and he did it. He did the run. I knew he won it when he came down. I was like, dude, you won it. You won this thing. And it was just exciting. But thanks so much for taking the time. And thank you, Flomies, for listening. This is the first episode of the Into the Flow podcast. We look forward to having some more. And we're going to have some other of the moderators do this. I'm not going to be the only one. So you'll get to have a perspective from a lot of different angles. And we'll be interviewing more of our Into the Flow group and find out what they're good at. So thanks a lot. You guys have a great evening. And you too, Jeremiah. Please tell Amanda hi.
Thank you. Absolutely.
All right. Take care. Good night.